It has taken 9 days of counting and recounting, but BC's election results are finally clear. The BC NDP will form a majority government, but just barely. Richard Zussman is live with the late results. Richard, you've been on your phone up until a couple of moments ago. All eyes were on Surrey-Guildford today, which did flip to the NDP.
Now, that is the key riding and all of this, Jordan. We'll get to Surrey-Guildford in a moment, but first I want to fill you in. Premier David Eby has spoken to and met with Janet Austin, the Lieutenant Governor. The Lieutenant Governor has asked him to form a government. In doing so, this becomes the third straight election where the NDP has formed government. That's a first in BC's history for the New Democrats. David Eby becomes the fifth New Democrat to be elected Premier, alongside Mike Harcourt, Glenn Clark, John Horgan, and Dave Barrett. And I want to focus in, as you described, on that riding of Surrey-Guildford, because on election night, this one was being led by the Conservatives and Honveer Randhawa. But Gary Begg has pulled it off, leading by 16 votes here. There are still just a handful of votes that need to be counted, but fewer than 16. And so that means the NDP has won Surrey-Guildford. I want to show you something neat here. It has been so close here. It's even tripped up the computer system with how close it's been. That is the sort of election it has been. But it's not quite over yet in Surrey-Guildford. There will be a judicial recount because of how close it is. It is within that threshold. And I want to show you why it also is so razor thin here, and the NDP will need likely some help, and that's because of this riding in the Okanagan. So let's focus in on Kelowna Centre. This is the second closest riding in British Columbia. You can see Christina Lowen and the Conservatives have won by 38 votes over Loyal Woolridge and the NDP in Kelowna Centre. So we expect, Jordan, that this one will also have to go to a judicial recount, but it's important to note we haven't seen any indication in the history of this province that judicial recounts have changed the outcomes of elections.
Now, Richard, the NDP has this majority, as you mentioned, but do they still need to negotiate with the Greens?
They are going to have conversations with the Greens, and I'll show you in part why, Jordan. When you look at the map here, there are 2 Green seats. That would help. It's complicated to be efficient in Parliament by a razor-thin majority. The NDP still needs to find that speaker. We've seen a statement now from Sonia Furstenau, the Greens leader. She did lose her seat, but she is helping this process with the 2 new MLAs, Rob Botterill and Jeremy Valeriot. And she said that for the legislature to function effectively, the NDP needs help from the Greens. And we're going to hear more from Premier David Eby tomorrow when he speaks to reporters in Victoria at 11 o'clock, Jordan.
Thank you, Richard Zussman, reporting live tonight. Let's bring in Keith Baldry, too. Keith, just how much is going to get done in this legislative session, and who will be the speaker to oversee it all?
Yeah, so again, someone has to be the speaker. Does it come from the government side? Does it come from the opposition side? Whoever it is, there are certain rules that come into play. In such a tight legislature, the speaker may be required to vote from time to time. They avoided that in 2017 with the recruitment of Daryl Plecas from the BC Liberals to be speaker. But given only a 1-seat majority, it is conceivable the speaker may have to get involved in some of the votes. So here's how it's going to work, potentially. The speaker basically votes for the government in all confidence votes. So this is a matter of the budget or even the throne speech. The speaker cannot bring down the government. The speaker also votes to keep bills moving through the legislature from second reading to committee stage to third reading. But the speaker votes against legislation. These are protocols. They're not written down, but they're just basically conventions. Votes against legislation at third reading in case of a tie, and basically tries to maintain the status quo and does not vote in favor of shutting down debate. But again, we haven't been through this before. And go back to 2017, Jordan. No one saw this coming when Mike Farnworth recruited Daryl Plecas from the BC Liberals to be the speaker. Don't rule out the BC NDP also trying to employ a similar maneuver here and try to get a Conservative MLA to serve as speaker. I'm looking at a guy like Ian Payton, who's the 2-term MLA, now 3-term MLA in Delta South, well-liked, well-respected in the House. It's conceivable they approach someone like him or some other member of the Conservative caucus or even a Green Party member, even though they're brand new. The speaker's job has a fair amount of attractiveness to it, and it can certainly see someone from outside the NDP fulfilling that job, or it continues on with Rod Chauhan, the well-respected and well-liked speaker, continuing on the post for now. Now, as Richard just pointed out, we're in some conversations now that have never even envisioned being taking place before the election. Now we're going to begin in earnest between the BC NDP, the BC Greens, and who knows, maybe a BC Conservative speaker. We'll see what happens.
Well, we're good at carving a unique path in BC, aren't we, Keith? Thanks for this. Yeah.